Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. Christmas Eve wasn't supposed to look like that. I had planned something simple. Dinner at home, quiet, controlled. That's how I liked things. But Victoria insisted we go out, said she wanted something different this year. That alone told me enough. We sat in a corner of an upscale restaurant downtown. Low lights, soft music, the kind of place where nobody raises their voice, no matter how bad things get. Victoria looked prepared, not dressed up for me, dressed up for a moment. She kept adjusting her glass, checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. There was a rhythm to it, rehearsed, like she had practiced this in her head more than once. I leaned back in my chair and watched her. "Something you want to say?" I asked. She smiled, slow and confident. "Relax, Sean. It's Christmas." "Yeah," I said. "That's exactly why I'm asking." She didn't like that. I saw it in how her jaw tightened for half a second before she covered it with a sip of wine. A waiter passed by. She glanced toward the entrance, not casually, intentionally. That was mistake number one. "You expecting someone?" I asked. Her eyes snapped back to me. "No, should I be?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence sit there, heavy enough to make her shift in her seat. "I don't know," I said finally. "You tell me." She laughed. Forced. A little too sharp. "You've been acting strange lately," she said, trying to turn it. "Distant." "I've been paying attention," I replied. That landed. For a second, she didn't have a response. Then she leaned forward, elbows on the table, lowering her voice like she was about to share something important. "Good," she said. "Then maybe this will be easier for you." There it was, the moment she had been building toward. I picked up my glass, took a slow sip, and held her gaze. "Go ahead," I said. "Let's not waste the reservation." She smiled again, but this time, it wasn't warm. It was sharp, confident, like she thought she already had me cornered. What she didn't know was that I had been waiting for this dinner longer than she had. Victoria didn't rush it. That's what made it almost impressive. She looked at her phone for a second, then slowly turned its screen up toward me, like she wanted me to see it from the start. Then she folded her hands like she was about to close a deal. "I think we both know this marriage isn't working," she said. I didn't react. "Then say what you came here to say." Her smile widened just a little. "All right." She slid the phone across the table toward me. "Look." I didn't touch it right away. I already knew what I was going to see. Still, I picked it up. Photos, messages, a hotel room, Victoria, another man, Oliver Foster. I recognized him immediately. Not a stranger, someone who had been in my house, sat at my table, shook my hand like it meant something. I set the phone down carefully. "That's it?" I asked. For the first time, she blinked. "Excuse me? You dragged me out on Christmas Eve for this?" I said, leaning back. I expected more effort. Her expression tightened. That wasn't the reaction she planned. "I'm leaving you, Sean," she said, sharper now. "Oliver and I have been together for months. I'm done pretending this marriage means anything." I nodded once. "And the restaurant?" "I wanted you to hear it properly," she said. "Not hide behind walls at home. I wanted you to understand what you lost." I let out a quiet breath through my nose. "You think this makes you look strong?" I asked. Her eyes flashed. "I think it makes me honest." "No," I said. "It makes you predictable." That hit harder than anything else. She leaned forward again, voice dropping but more aggressive now. "Let's not drag this out. I've already spoken to a lawyer. After the holidays, I'm filing for divorce." There it was. "Half of everything, Sean," she added. "The house, your business, the accounts. I'm entitled to it." I held her gaze. "You sound very sure of that." "I am," she said. "And before you start acting like a victim, don't. You checked out of this marriage a long time ago." I gave a small nod. "Anything else?" She hesitated, just for a second. Then she said it. "He's here, by the way." I didn't move. "Oliver," she continued, tilting her head slightly toward the bar. "I thought it would be fair for you to see who I chose." I followed her glance. There he was, sitting at the bar, watching, not nervous, not ashamed, confident. That was his mistake. I looked back at Victoria. "So this," I said calmly, "is your big moment?" She smiled again. "Yes." I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. "Then you really should have planned it better." Victoria's smile didn't disappear, but it tightened. "What does that mean?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I looked past her, straight at Oliver Foster. He held my gaze for a second, then looked away. Not confident anymore, just pretending. I turned back to her. "You picked a public place," I said. "You brought him here. You rehearsed this whole speech." She crossed her arms. "Say what you're trying to say, Sean." "I'm saying," I continued, calm but direct, "you wanted a reaction. Something loud, something messy. And," she pressed, "and you're not getting it." Her jaw set. "You don't get to control this." I leaned in slightly. "I'm not controlling it. I'm correcting it." That threw her off. She tried to recover fast. "There's nothing to correct. I told you the truth. I'm leaving. I've already secured legal advice. You can fight it if you want, but it won't change anything." I nodded slowly. "You talked to a lawyer?" "Yes." "Did you tell him everything?" Her eyes narrowed. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "you're not as careful as you think you are." There was a pause, a small one, but real. "Sean, stop trying to twist this," she said. "You got caught off guard. It happens. Accept it." I almost smiled. "You really believe that?" I asked. "I know it," she replied. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my phone. Not rushed, not dramatic, just deliberate. She watched me, confused now. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Finishing this properly," I said. I tapped the screen a few times, then set the phone down between us. "Check your email," I added. She didn't move at first. "Why?" "Because," I said, holding her gaze, "if you're going to make a scene, you should at least understand the full picture." Her confidence flickered. "Sean, I don't have time for games." "Good," I replied. "Neither do I." That did it. She grabbed her phone, unlocked it quickly, and opened her email. For a second, nothing changed. Then her eyes moved, then stopped, then moved again, faster this time. Her posture shifted, slightly forward, shoulders tightening. "What is this?" she muttered. I didn't answer. I let her read. Attachments, statements, transfers, screenshots, lined up one after another. Dates, names, patterns, everything she thought she had hidden. Her breathing changed first, shallow, uneven. "This isn't," she started, then stopped. I leaned back in my chair. "You said you talked to a lawyer," I said calmly. "You might want to forward that to him." She looked up at me, and for the first time that night, she wasn't in control. "How long?" she whispered. "Long enough," I said. Her fingers trembled slightly as she scrolled, and across the room, Oliver Foster's phone started buzzing. Victoria kept scrolling, slower now. Not because there was less to see, but because she understood what she was looking at. This isn't possible," she said under her breath. "It is," I replied, "and it's organized. That's the important part." She opened one attachment after another. Bank statements, transfers she thought were buried, accounts she assumed I never checked. Then the messages, not just with Oliver, but with others. Conversations about money, about timing, about how to move things without raising suspicion. Her hand tightened around the phone. "That's what you were really doing," I said quietly. "You weren't just cheating. You were preparing to leave, and you were moving money to make sure you landed clean. You went through my private accounts?" she asked, trying to sound angry. "But it didn't land." "I went through my accounts," I corrected. "The ones you were pulling from." Her eyes snapped up to mine. "I wasn't—" "Careful," I cut in. "You don't want to lie twice in the same minute." That shut her up. I had been tracking everything long before that night. She never noticed how much she was leaving behind to be traced. At the bar, Oliver shifted in his seat. His phone buzzed again. He checked it this time. I watched his face change. Confusion first, then tension, then something closer to panic. Victoria noticed it too. "What did you do?" she asked quickly. "Nothing complicated," I said. "I just sent the same information to a few people who would find it relevant." Her voice dropped. "Who?" I held her gaze. "His employer," I said, nodding slightly toward Oliver. "A few members of their board, and someone else who had a financial interest in his decisions." Her face went pale. "You didn't?" "I did." She looked back at Oliver. He was already standing now, stepping away from the bar, phone pressed to his ear. He wasn't watching anymore. He was dealing with something. "Sean," she said, quieter now, "you're going too far." I leaned forward, just enough to make sure she heard me clearly. "No," I said. "You started something you didn't understand." Her breathing picked up again. "You're trying to ruin us." I shook my head once. "I didn't create anything," I said. "I exposed it." She looked down at the screen again, scrolling faster now like she was searching for something that would undo it all. But there wasn't anything, because I had made sure of that. "You've been planning this," she said. "Yes." "For how long?" "Since the first time you lied to me and thought I wouldn't notice." That answer landed harder than anything else. Across the room, Oliver walked toward the exit, still on the phone, not looking back. Victoria saw it. And that's when it finally hit her. This wasn't a scene she controlled anymore. This was fallout, and it had already started. Victoria pushed her chair back slightly, eyes locked on Oliver as he moved toward the exit. "Where is he going?" she asked, her voice tight. I didn't turn. "Handling his problems." She stood halfway, then sat back down. Didn't want to chase him, didn't want to look desperate. Too late for that. Her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't ignore it. She answered quickly, turning slightly away from me. "Oliver, what's going on?" I watched her face as she listened. Whatever he said, it wasn't good. "What do you mean they called you?" she snapped quietly. "No, that doesn't make any sense. Just calm down." His company cannot afford to be connected to even the possibility of fraud or misconduct, so they freeze everything first. Then they investigate. Victoria stopped. Her expression changed. "Oliver?" she said again, slower this time. Silence. Then she pulled the phone away and stared at it. Call ended. I leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. That didn't take long. She looked at me like she didn't recognize who she was sitting across from. "You blindsided him," she said. I shook my head. "No, I gave them information. What they do with it, that's on them." Her hands were shaking now, not dramatic, just enough to notice. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this," she muttered. "That's because you were focused on the wrong outcome," I said. She looked up sharply. "You think this is a win for you?" I held her gaze. "I think you walked into a situation you didn't control," I said. "And now you're seeing the difference." Her phone buzzed again. Then again. Messages, calls, back to back. She didn't answer this time. "Who else did you send this to?" she asked. "People connected to the money," I replied. "People who don't like being lied to." Her breathing got heavier. "You're trying to destroy me." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "You tried to take everything from me," I said. "Business, assets, reputation." I paused. "And you thought I'd sit here and let you." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. At a nearby table, someone glanced over. Not because we were loud, but because silence like that stands out. Victoria noticed it. She straightened, trying to pull herself back together. Too late. "Sean," she said, softer now. "We can fix this." "No," I said immediately. "You can deal with it." That hit. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. Her face dropped. "Who is it?" I asked. She didn't answer. I didn't need her to. I already knew. "Your brother?" I said. "Or someone from the bank?" She looked up slowly. "How do you know?" "Because," I said, standing up, "when things like this break, they don't stay contained." I reached for my coat. "You wanted a moment," I added. "You got one." She stood quickly. "You're just going to walk out?" I looked at her, calm. "You already did," I said. "You just needed tonight to realize it." I left her there, at the table she thought would end me. Instead, it was where everything started collapsing. Just not for me. Christmas morning was quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. Victoria came back to the house sometime after midnight. I heard the door, her footsteps, then nothing. No confrontation, no attempt to talk. Good. I didn't need another conversation. I was in the kitchen early, making coffee like any other day. Same routine, same pace. That's how I keep control. No sudden shifts, no emotional reactions. She walked in 20 minutes later. No makeup. Same dress from the night before. Eyes tired but not from crying, from thinking. That was new. "We need to talk," she said. I didn't look up right away. "You already did." "Sean, stop," she snapped, but there wasn't much force behind it. "This is serious." I set the cup down and turned toward her. "It's been serious," I said. "You just noticed late." She exhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. I went to see Oliver last night. I nodded once. And? He wouldn't let me in, she admitted. Security told me to leave. His company. They've suspended him. They're reviewing everything. Expected? She shook her head. You don't understand. He said you twisted things, that you made it look worse than it is. I gave a small, humorless smile. Did he also tell you to fix it on your own? I asked. She didn't answer. That was enough. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it but didn't pick it up. Who now? I asked. My brother, she said quietly. And my father. They've both been calling. And? They know about the money. Of course they do. She stepped closer. Sean, listen to me. I made mistakes. I admit that. But this is spiraling out of control. I held her gaze. It was always out of control, I said. You just liked it when it worked in your favor. Her voice dropped. I need your help. No, she blinked. Just like that? Just like that. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing once. They're talking about legal action, about fraud. I didn't think it would go that far. That's because you didn't think, I said. She stopped pacing. You set this up. I prepared, I corrected. There's a difference. What happens now? She asked. I picked up my coffee. You deal with what you started, I said. Without me. She stared at me like she was trying to find something left. There wasn't anything, and for the first time she understood that. The next few days stripped everything down. No drama, no shouting, just consequences stacking one after another. Victoria stayed in the house, but barely. She moved like she didn't belong there anymore, phone always in her hand, waiting for something to go her way. It didn't. By the third day, the calls changed. Not family anymore, lawyers, banks, people asking direct questions. I was in my office going over invoices when she walked in without knocking, saying we needed to talk. She said a serious lawyer told her this could turn criminal, not just divorce. Then she asked me to fix it. Call people. Call it a misunderstanding. I said no. She tried to push back, but I shut it down. Her eyes filled, but she held it together. I'm asking you one last time, she said. Help me fix this. I walked past her, stopping at the door. There's nothing to fix, I said. There's only what comes next. She turned toward me. And us? I looked at her once. Clear. Direct. There is no us, Victoria. That was it. No hesitation. No second chances. Just a clean end. And she finally understood. She didn't lose me that night at the restaurant. She lost me long before that. She just noticed too late. After that, the house didn't feel the same. It wasn't loud or quiet. It just felt empty in a different way. Victoria left 2 days after our last conversation. No big scene, no final speech, just a suitcase, a few boxes, and the sound of a door closing behind her. I didn't stop her. There was nothing left to negotiate. The legal process took over everything after that. Lawyers handled the calls, documents replaced conversations. Every decision became written, signed, and final. She tried to stay ahead of it, but she couldn't. Her accounts were frozen during the investigation. Not just the shared ones, everything tied to the transfers was reviewed. The money she had moved was traced step by step, and most of it was pulled back or locked until the courts decided what was legitimate and what wasn't. The divorce turned into a contested case almost immediately. Her lawyer stepped back once the documentation was fully reviewed, and she had to switch representation. From that point on, she wasn't negotiating anymore. She was responding to filings. Financially, she lost control fast. Assets were divided under strict conditions, and a large part of what she expected to walk away with never materialized. Some of it went into repayment orders tied to disputed transfers. No criminal charges were ever publicly announced, but the investigation didn't just disappear either. It stayed open long enough that every part of her life slowed down under it. She tried once to message me, just one line. I didn't think it would end like this. I didn't reply. I deleted it. Work filled the space faster than I expected. Clients I hadn't heard from in years started calling. New projects came in back to back. A renovation job turned into 3, then 5. People trust consistency. I gave them that. A few months later, I met someone new, Emily. She worked at a clinic near one of my job sites. We started talking after I went in for a minor injury. Nothing planned, just normal conversation. We saw each other again a week later at a hardware store, then a few times after that. Coffee, short talks, no pressure. We took things slow, no expectations, no performance. She didn't try to read too much into me, and I didn't try to explain more than I had to. That was enough. Victoria didn't come back into my life directly. Just once, an email from an unknown address. No name, just, "I hope you're okay." I didn't reply. I deleted it. Later, I heard what happened to her. She went back to her parents at first, but it didn't last. They didn't want the situation in their house, not after everything that came out. After that, she ended up on her own, renting a small apartment on the edge of town. From what I understood, things were tight. Work was unstable. Reputation followed her everywhere. Oliver disappeared from the picture completely. No one really talked about him after that. He just stepped out of it and stayed out. I didn't follow it closely. I didn't need to. Life kept moving. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck in it. Victoria thought Christmas Eve would break me. She brought everything she had to that table: humiliation, control, certainty. But she misunderstood one thing about me. I don't break under pressure. I respond. And when I did, she became the one who couldn't recover. Not because I destroyed her, but because I simply stopped standing in the way of what she had already started. Thank you for watching.